The Swann International Road Race Series was conducted for the 7th time in 1984 and again provided motorcycling action of the highest calibre for Australian fans. It's conducted over 3 consecutive weekends, starting at Calder Raceway in Victoria, then moving on to Oran Park in New South Wales and concludes at Surfers Paradise Raceway in Queensland. In each round there are 2 heats conducted. The international element in 1984 came particularly from English ace Rob McElnay riding a Suzuki. There are also Japanese riders present representing the Moriwaki team, and of course many Australians, with most of the manufacturing battle in recent years concentrating on the battle between Suzuki and Honda. In the next 90 minutes we're going to show you action from the 1984 Swann International Series, starting with the first round at Calder in Victoria.
And as the bikes prepare to head off on their warm-up lap, right from the start, the Swann Insurance Series for 1984 has come alive. Yesterday in practice, 2 Honda Grand Prix bikes, 2 Suzuki Grand Prix bikes, 1 Honda Superbike and 1 Suzuki Formula One machine claimed the top 6 placings in an electrifying practice session. Wayne Gardner took pole position on the Honda RS500 with a best time of 45.78 seconds. You can see that's 0.6 of a second ahead of the local star, the Australian Grand Prix champion for 1984, Andrew Johnson. And remember that Johnson's bike is almost identical to that of Gardner. There's a lot of prestige riding on who will win out of these 2 bikes. Then in 3rd position on the grid comes the fiery UK rider, Suzuki rider Rob McElnay, who yesterday recorded a best time of 46.73 seconds in cold and blustery conditions, and we should see more from McElnay today in the hotter weather. Then comes Malcolm Campbell, sensationally Malcolm Campbell, the man who won the Swann Insurance Series last year, but this year has been relegated to his 1000cc Honda Superbike, and yet he manages to be 4th fastest on the grid from Rob Phillips and Glenn Middlemas. Glenn Middlemas, the new Australian 500cc champion. Then in 7th position on the grid comes the first of the 2 Japanese Moriwaki riders, Hutch Yatsushiro on the 750 Moriwaki Honda. Behind him is Paul Idden, the late entry from the UK on a Suzuki RGB 500, then Don Hollick and Hikaru Miyagi on the 2nd of the Moriwaki bikes. And the Swann Insurance Series for 1984 is shaping up as probably the best motorcycle race series we've seen, and that's really saying something when you take into account last year's series. With us in the commentary position is the ace British motorcycle commentator and journalist, Peter Clifford. Peter, how do you see the series?
Well, it's obviously going to be excitement all the way. I think that the arrival of Wayne Gardner and Rob McElnay here, straight back from their triumphs in Europe, battling with each other over the British races and at the Grand Prix, just proves what a tremendous event this is. And they've come up against the great list of Australians with Rob Phillips, Andrew Johnson and Malcolm Campbell. I really wouldn't have any idea who's going to win this first round. There's Campbell, who's only on the 1000cc Superbike, but he's pretty pleased with the way that's gone in practice, and I'm sure that he will be sticking a wheel inside the Grand Prix machines, just as Phyllis will on the Suzuki Superbike. So a variety of machinery and of riders that's going to be making a very, very exciting race.
2 new corners in the Calder circuit for the first time. Will Hagan, the difference to the circuit?
Yes, indeed. The practice time slightly slower. 2 corners added in what now becomes a tight series of S's. As we see on the front row, Phyllis moving back just a touch on 32. Gardner on 3, who was just waving to the camera. And a lot of tension, I can tell you, down there on the start grid. That's Phyllis. Formula One bike, a GSX 400 production frame with a 750 developed engine in it.
And a very, very special machine, because that bike of Phyllis has actually been bored out to nearly 1000 cc's, and there's Rob McElnay on the Grand Prix Suzuki. You can just see the rev counter ticking away there, and the water temperature gauge beside it.
Warming it up, he was revving it over 4,000. They really, on a machine like that, don't get much power below about 7,500, 8,000 revs. Very narrow power band, a big crowd, and all is in readiness. It's 20 laps. 38 kilometres. It was absolutely frantic last year.
Officials moving 2 bikes back from the front row of the grid.
Craig Trinder, one of them, on 2. Number 4 is the other, Len Willing.
On the production bike. He was very reticent as to whether he should start in this field of Grand Prix bikes, but they're away. Big start from Andrew Johnson with Rob McElnay right behind him.
Phyllis could be third into the first corner. He pumps down the inside very quickly.
And Middlemas gets a good line even inside Phyllis.
Gardner way out on the outside, been forced out. You can see him there, G in the middle of the pack. Not a good start for Wayne Gardner, but it's all Andrew Johnson down the back straight for the first time. Rob McElnay poking up the inside. Phyllis on the outside takes second position. McElnay in third, Glenn Middlemas in fourth.
And Malcolm Campbell fifth, so they're all well up the front there.
The man leading is the man who said, if I can't win, I'll just go for consistency. I'm not going to argue about it or do anything silly.
And I saw Wayne Gardner there. He's back in about 8th place, so he's got a bit of work to do.
And in fact, John Pace overtook him. Pace only bought an RGB 500 last week to contest this series and crashed it this morning in practice and has worked frantically to get it back into winning time. First lap gone. Andrew Johnson in the lead. Rob Phyllis on the outside. Rob McElnay now underneath him. And trying to go round Andrew Johnson. McElnay now in the slipstream and out of it. Braking duel into the back straight. Johnson uses all the braking power that he can find.
Gardner 4 1/4 seconds behind Johnson, the race leader. Both of them on RS 500 V3 Hondas. So it's Honda Grand Prix bike, Suzuki Grand Prix bike, Suzuki Formula One bike, 4-stroke, big thumping power, lots of mid-range, but up high, heavier.
Gardner's already up into 6th place with a cleared road now between him and the 5th place man Malcolm Campbell.
And Middlemas is just in front of Campbell on 22.
And McElnay takes over the lead from Andrew Johnson. 3.68 seconds is back to Wayne Gardner in 6th position.
And McElnay with clear road in front now has to make full use of it to get away before Gardner can catch the leading group.
There's McElnay. Stocky English rider. And there's Gardner on G with Michael Dowson behind him. Gardner clearing out from Dowson. John Pace back behind Dowson.
So Gardner's going to really have his work cut out now. He's got 5 really top riders in front of him, and McElnay already opening up a lead over Andrew Johnson.
Gardner 2.8 seconds behind McElnay. And looming onto the group now, coming up on Malcolm Campbell on the Honda Superbike.
And looks like McElnay ran wide there, and Johnson's got right up beside him, and in fact has pulled alongside him. He's going to try and outbrake him into the corner, which he in fact does. Now, has McElnay got a problem, or was it just a mistake that ran him wide?
2 20-lap heats to be contested here today in the Swann Series. There's Gardner.
McElnay has lost the advantage that he so carefully gained in the first 2 laps. Now back in the midst of the pack. And Gardner tucks in behind Campbell. Surely he's soon going to make his move.
1.45 seconds from first back to 6th. Johnson to Gardner, both of them on Hondas.
And a race time, or rather a lap time, of 47.4 seconds to Andrew Johnson.
As Gardner has moved into 5th place, having passed Campbell already. And McElnay takes the lead again. A superb outbraking manoeuvre by McElnay on the 500 Suzuki.
Bold move by and Johnson overtaken by Rob Phyllis. He left the gap just for the moment. And Rob Phyllis, the very aggressive Albany rider, has gone straight underneath him.
And Middlemas still holds 4th place, but he's under pressure now from Gardner.
Still only a second and a half coming into the 6th.
Johnson takes back 2nd position from Phyllis, but it's a braking duel between the 2 of them.
And Gardner goes inside Middlemas to take 4th. So Gardner already up to 4th, as McElnay once again has that chance to break clear.
1.49 seconds the gap from Johnson, rather from McElnay back to Gardner.
And Gardner unable to make up any places through the twisty S's there. Very difficult to pass.
It's suiting McElnay very well with Wayne Gardner badly away and held up now a little bit. Gardner's got to produce a little bit of the magic that did in fact take him to 7th place in the World 500cc Championship this year.
And he pulls out and passes Phyllis down the straight. Already into 2nd place. No, sorry, into 3rd place. He just tucks in behind Johnson.
And now it is Johnson and Gardner. The two Honda riders, almost identical machines. Johnson's made the bold move to go to 16-inch rear wheel, and Gardner pulls out on the inside of him. Does Andrew Johnson have an answer? No, he doesn't.
And this will test Johnson's self-control. Will he let Gardner just come past and ride away?
Johnson has claimed since yesterday morning in practice that he wants to ride this series to make major points in every race. He says he wants to build up points in the series, and then maybe, if he's really forced into desperation, he'll race at Surface Paradise in the final rounds. But can his, as Peter says, his iron will contain him? Because Johnson's a man who loves to race.
And Gardner there, he's in second place, but surely he's the fastest man on the track at the moment and making up ground over McElnay, who albeit has a little lead at the moment that isn't likely to last for very long.
Gardner had a monstrous moment in the S's yesterday. He totally lost control of this Honda, had it flip-flopping right and left, and finally held it up only by using his knee as a side stand. Came back to the pits visibly shaken.
As you can see, that knee patch scraping on the tarmac now. It's a plastic knee patch added to the leathers, and it scrapes on the tarmac, allows him to feel his way through the corner, and as he's used it in emergency to prop the bike up if the front or back end slides away.
1.25 seconds the gap. McElnay back to Gardner. Glenn Middlemas doing a superb job in fourth position, clinging to Andrew Johnson. Middlemas, the new Australian 500cc champion.
And Phyllis dropped back to fifth place.
Middlemas gave Johnson a hard run for the few laps that Johnson did of the Australian 500 Championship this morning, which Middlemas won. Johnson retired. He just really used it as a warm-up and to check his bike out. But Middlemas was visibly quicker out of the S's up to Glowweed Corner in this section than Johnson. He was smoother, and he was laying his bike over more than Johnson. He was making ground on Johnson in that section.
In fact, that is actually Campbell who's in fifth place, and I seem to have lost Phyllis. In fact, Phyllis has stopped. He's pushing his bike back across the infield. The engine has blown up, so that's Phyllis out of the race, and Campbell, the only remaining four-stroke with the leaders, back in fifth place, just ahead of Dowson. That's Phyllis.
And there's Phyllis. Back on the track, McElnay is being hauled in by Wayne Gardner. 1.2 seconds was the gap, then back to 1.05 seconds, only half a lap later.
Now the pressure's on McElnay. He knows that his arch rival from many, many races in England and around Europe is right behind him, and he's got to be wondering which part of the circuit can he try that a little bit harder on to try and keep ahead, and he's not managing it at the moment because Gardner relentlessly closes.
Only half a second the gap now. And McElnay knows he's there. And now you can put the stopwatches down because it's purely line of sight. Rob McElnay and Wayne Gardner together on the track, racing for the lead in the first heat of the first round of the Swann Insurance Series.
And it's Suzuki versus Honda, the four-cylinder disc valve machine of Rob McElnay versus the three-cylinder reed valve of Wayne Gardner.
McElnay tries to break the slipstream on Gardner as they come down the straight. Does it very smoothly, in fact, because he doesn't want to lose speed himself.
Thinks about going inside McElnay, decides that perhaps next time both water-cooled two-strokes, both developing well over 120 brake horsepower.
The Suzuki not quite as punchy out of corners, but revs out a little bit better, faster up high if it has any advantage over the Honda. McElnay's particular machine, perhaps about 8 kilos lighter than Gardner's Honda. The Honda weighing in at about 134 kilos, McElnay's at about 126. But the Honda very good in the mid-range out of corners.
Yes, the Honda are able to lay a strip of rubber through the corner, getting the power down, wrenching at the slick tyre, accelerating out the corner with tremendous punch.
Meantime, back in third position, Glenn Middlemas has got through Andrew Johnson. You've got to reckon Johnson's got problems. And those problems are most likely to be gearing, because after a practice run this morning, they were working at the rear of the bike.
And Gardner's dropped back a couple of yards now. Almost certainly he's playing a tactical race. He's had a look either side of McElnay at several corners, just picking the place where he fancies trying the out-braking manoeuvre at the crucial moment.
Here's Middlemas now in third on 22 from Johnson, fourth on 7.
We're 6.33 seconds behind the race for the lead.
And McElnay still ahead of Gardner there, opened up a little gap in fact.
Well, McElnay responding very well to the challenge thrown at him by Gardner. After catching him, we might have expected Gardner to find an easy way past, but McElnay was obviously pacing himself and had a reply to it. And Gardner, on the other hand, is putting on a show back there in second place, mono-wheeling down the straight.
And with only 3 laps to go, you've got to reckon that Gardner's got no answer for McElnay.
It's either that or he's a very, very confident man, because McElnay is opening up a lead.
I think if Gardner's mono-wheeling, he has got an answer, because he just picked the wheel up to do that, and yet he's falling behind.
In fact, he's 2.4 seconds in the race. I mean, that's impossible in 2.5 laps.
He doesn't have any visible problem, but of course the engine could be lost power, something we're unaware of, split exhaust pipe or anything like that.
The 2 heat winners here last year were McElnay and Campbell. Campbell winning the first heat, McElnay the second.
And he's got well behind. He's surely out of the race now as McElnay tucks behind the screen, takes a look at his pit board to check how many laps there are to go and how far he is in front.
So that's both the Hondas seemingly in trouble. Back in 81, Gary Coleman won the first heat and Wayne Gardner won the second in the year that he won the series. But like Campbell, he only won 1 heat in winning the series.
Surely McElnay can hardly believe what's happening as Gardner pulls another wheelie.
Gardner's 3.44 seconds behind now. He's dropping more than a second a lap. Here's the dice for third position. Johnson coming up on Middlemas. They're 7.71 seconds behind Rob McElnay and 4.27 seconds behind Wayne Gardner.
And Gardner really can't afford to take it easy, because he may be able to lose out a couple of points in this round for letting Rob win, but he can't afford to have Middlemas and Johnson come past him.
Blue flag comes out for Rob McElnay. He's on the final lap of the first heat of the first round of the Swann Insurance Series, and he's got it sewn up. Quite incredible.
Very smoothly done. Lovely action there, sliding his knee on the deck around the corner.
McElnay was the man who was saying earlier today that he believed he probably didn't have an answer to Wayne Gardner's Honda.
Yes, well, the late commitment of Gardner to the Swann Series seemed to be very bad news for McElnay, who until then surely was a hot favourite for the series.
Gardner is only 1.8 seconds in front of Glenn Middlemas with half a lap remaining.
Really easy. He's on a winning streak, but here's Gardner.
Rob McElnay comes to the checkered flag and takes the first heat of the Swann Insurance Series, and he does so 3.98 seconds in front of Wayne Gardner, who in turn is only just in front of Glenn Middlemas with Andrew Johnson in 4th position.
There's the progressive situation after the first leg of the Swann Series. We're at the halfway mark of the first round, so it's not terribly conclusive at this stage. But Rob McElnay, with a clear-cut victory in the first leg, has 15 points. Wayne Gardner, the fastest in practice yesterday, took second placing today in the first leg to have 12 points. Glenn Middlemas was third and has 10 points. Then Andrew Johnson has 8, and the defending champion, Malcolm Campbell, has 6 points.
Ready for a start. Here we go. Big start from Andrew Johnson, but then he stalls and Rob Phillips comes up. No, it's Glenn Middlemas up alongside him on 22. Johnson inside him again and takes over the lead. McElnay around the outside.
Middlemas being urged up by Dowson on 1.
And John Pace is right up there on bike P in 3rd position with Dowson behind him on the Yamaha TZ 750.
So Middlemas, who got the jump, is now 5th after 1 corner. McElnay, as you can see, 2nd right on Johnson.
Once more it's Gardner who's left trailing. He's way back, about
13th position, yes. But it's Andrew Johnson in the lead, Rob McElnay behind him. And then John Pace, Wayne Gardner's co-rider in this year's Castrol 6-hour race.
1.17 between the first 5. Eden leads the next bunch.
And McElnay almost got inside there to take the lead, almost got inside Johnson.
And Yatsushiro came down inside Eden, so he's starting to get to grips with things now. heads the next pack behind these 5.
And look at Michael Dowson on the old Yamaha TZ750. He overtakes Rob McElnay in a second position.
And in the room next door, the lap scorers are cheering for Dowson on the old bike. A bike that won Greg Pretty the Series 1, Jeff Sale at Swann Series. Barry Ditchburn did a Series on 1. They've won a lot of races.
But this bike for the last 2 years has sat in Mal Evans, the sidecar rider's garage, because he took the engine out of it to use in his sidecar. And it's only the work of Mal Pittman, the South Australian Yamaha distributor, who's got the bike back into condition for this race today. It's Andrew Johnson in the lead.
And McElnay tries to go inside Dowson but can't, and Pace still holds a fine 4th place.
Further back, Eden and Campbell are the next pair. In fact, Middlemas trying to threaten Pace.
Gardner still lies in 9th position in the motorcycle race on lap 2.
McElnay looking for a way past the 750 Yamaha. The 500 goes inside. McElnay uses superior handling of the 500, just nips inside the heavier 750 Yamaha, but he's likely to lose out down the big squirt on the straight where the cubes of the Yamaha should pay dividends.
46.7 the previous lap, 46.33, averaging 147.5 kilometres an hour. Dowson back into the lead down the, or back ahead of McElnay down the straight.
And that was a pretty dicey manoeuvre. McElnay mustn't have been very pleased to see Dowson's machine move right across his nose there.
Gardner is still lying 9th, betting in those brakes. Expect fireworks from him later in the event.
Now Johnson putting on a really good performance here. Don't forget he may get tired towards the end of the race as that damaged left ankle begins to hurt. And McElnay again inside the 750 Yamaha.
And will Dowson watch his exit from the corner? Actually, he's much slower through the corner than the nimble 500. You can't really get the power on very early with those TZ750s. You have to be sitting them fairly upright before you give them the gun. But my goodness, they go when you do.
And Dowson again goes across the nose of McElnay.
6.18 seconds from Andrew Johnson back to Wayne Gardner in 9th position. Johnson nicely covering his corner. Now McElnay has tried on Dowson through this section. Let's see if he can do the same thing on Johnson. Nip under on brakes here. Johnson's got it covered.
Well, the 500 Honda is a lot more nimble machine through the corners, able to get the power on much earlier than the big TZ750.
8 laps down. 12 remaining.
Dowson positioning himself for a good exit from the corner, as is McElnay. And for a flyer up the back straight, I thought, but McElnay ran away from him as he attacked Johnson. And Johnson just resists everything. The man is not well, and look at the way he's riding. Glenn Middlemas is 4th, there on 22.
Gardner is back up to 7th position, having dropped to 10th. McElnay using all the track as he comes on. There's Rob Phillips, the second retirement of the day. 2 bikes in reserve, and he's used both of them.
And a 46.33 again, to the 100th of a second.
And McElnay is desperately, you see, trying to get the drive down on the road on the Suzuki because the Honda is quicker out of the corners, and McElnay tries to go inside.
Oh. Johnson takes it back.
That meant Johnson really had to crank it over hard as he came into that corner. A little bit late apexing, a little bit late turning in. And he's got him now. But can Johnson grunt the Honda out of the corner a little bit better than the Suzuki and crack at him again down the straight? Dowson hanging on grimly back there in 3rd place on number 1. Johnson tucked in, planning the move. Now hard on the brakes, and McElnay leads in from Johnson, shallower, tighter, and with Dowson now perhaps trying to threaten him. Wonderful stuff from Michael Dowson, who really made, I feel, the 6-hour win for the RZ500 Yamaha with the first hour-and-a-half stint there where he just rode his heart out, and he rode his heart out against Wayne Gardner.
Now that he's clear of Johnson, McElnay really getting away a few yards through the twisty section.
Gardner moves up into 6th position, right behind John Pace.
Rob Phillips ran out of brakes on the Suzuki Superbike, to which he'd switched after blowing up the Formula One bike. 0.7 of a second blanketing McElnay to Dowson, who threatens Johnson. Should get out of this corner well.
Back in 5th position, Gardner having the devil of a time to get through pace, but here comes Dowson down the inside on Johnson into the braking area, and he does it. Johnson
Too
comes
wide.
to the inside, but so tight are those S's now that there was no way that Johnson could fight back.
Now is Johnson tiring? Is the left foot that's very badly damaged, is it hurting and is it causing him to ease up?
Had it been the old S's, then Johnson was well placed to be able to power down to the next corner and retake that 2nd position on Dowson. But in the new S's, there's just not room to do it.
There's no doubt on the one hand that Johnson is in great discomfort, on the other that he's refusing to ease up.
And this is really what McElnay wants, of course, because if these two can mess each other up, steal each other's lines, that's going to give him just the breathing space he needs.
Gardner's through pace, and he is now 2.67 seconds behind Glenn Middlemas. I repeat, 2.67.
The last victory for TZ 750 in the Swann Series, of course, wasn't so very long ago. It was Graham Muir in that dramatic last round at Surfers, last heat of the last round last year, when he was the man on the right tyres and Graham Muir won it.
And don't forget Middlemas. He's still sitting there really pretty in 4th place, just watching Johnson and Dowson fight it out in front.
Middlemas is 4th, Gardner hauling them in is 5th. Then it's Idden. Sorry, Yatsushiro Idden, Malcolm Campbell.
There's Gardner in his pursuit of Middlemas. He's 1.93 seconds behind Middlemas, who in turn is 6.34 seconds behind the race leader, McElnay.
Very smooth, Middlemas and Gardner.
Is the first 5. With this man out after them, the 1981 series winner. The only man among the top 5 who won a Swann Series previously.
You can just see McElnay's ankle flick out before his knee does, dipping the bike into the corner, and he's really still trying. You can see the back end of the Suzuki sliding there.
Middlemas almost certain to lose 4th position at the end of this straight as now Gardner throws out the challenge and comes down under brakes. Can't do it. Middlemas holds him out. Good riding, Glenn Middlemas.
A lot of the other riders, Malcolm Campbell for one, very impressed by Glenn Middlemas. His riding, he said he really thinks, does everything within the budget, smooth, plugs away, carries people. Does a fine job, Glenn Middlemas.
Gardner gets the Honda power really working for him there, pulls out, passes the Suzuki.
And Gardner is 4.15 seconds behind Rob McElnay with 4 laps remaining.
And if he's got real chance to hang on to his hopes for the championship, surely he has to catch Johnson and Dowson. He couldn't afford to lose the 7 points that he would be disadvantaged if he was this far behind McElnay.
In fact, he's 2.37 seconds behind them at the moment. And when he hits them, well, then he's on 2 placings in fairly quick succession. So a lot of incentive for Gardner to get busy, catch Johnson first, then Dowson.
Equally the incentive for Andrew Johnson to make sure that he doesn't get through.
Rob McElnay going out to more than a 2-second lead now. Still Dowson over Johnson, with Gardner catching.
Gardner, in fact, now down to 3.44 seconds from McElnay, but with the other 2 riders in between.
And there's these tail enders that Dowson and Johnson are catching. This is going to cause excitement as Johnson tries to outbrake Dowson and cannot do it.
1.21 seconds only Gardner forward to Johnson.
This will hold up Dowson and Johnson through these corners and allow Gardner to get right on their tail.
Peter Muir is the bike in between the Thunder bike. And again, bike 74, Jones.
Gardner right on Johnson's tail. He passes Johnson, sets out after Dowson.
And Johnson can't fight back. And now it's Gardner after Dowson.
Well, that's 2 points added to Gardner's score.
McElnay to Gardner, 2 seconds exactly.
As he takes second place and another 2 points, and it's really not all over.
2 laps remaining, 2 and a bit laps remaining. Can Gardner catch McElnay?
This man really is a demon. Wonderful rider, Wayne Gardner, whose gap to McElnay is now well under 2 seconds.
And McElnay knows
You reckon
it.
McElnay doesn't know it? The gap, 7/10 of a second.
Unbelievable.
Wollongong chasing England. As his race team manager, Barry Simmons, said after the first heat and his brake problems, he said, well, at least we know we've got the speed.
Now Rob McElnay has 1.5 laps in which to try and cling desperately to the lead of the second.
Further back, you can see Dowson clinging to third place, still over Johnson.
Gardner's drive out of the corner is definitely superior to the Suzuki's, but he doesn't make a move on this lap.
Here he comes. Down he goes, gets the blue flag, 1.9 kilometres remaining, and Wayne Gardner takes over the lead in the Swann Insurance Series. McElnay fights back, goes for the outside run, then cut back underneath.
Of course, from this position, they'd go into the next round on equal points, 27 each if they finish in this order. Oran Park next weekend.
Half a lap remaining now. Can McElnay do anything in the S's? Wayne Gardner should have him covered.
All McElnay can do now is try and position himself into this top glow weave corner to come out very fast. And look at him coming.
He goes underneath. Incredible.
How did he do that? Oh my goodness. Rob McElnay, a hero. Absolutely up out of the saddle, feet flailing, and he hung on. But Wayne Gardner wins. But didn't McElnay earn the second place, 1.34 seconds in arrears?
Let's see it again. McElnay goes in underneath Wayne Gardner in the same spot that he tried to get Michael Dowson, then pours his power on.
His inside foot
In a bit.
dragging on the floor, the back end comes round and kicks viciously, almost collecting Gardner's front wheel, and Wayne does a tremendous job to hold his line, as does Rob, to wrestle with the bike. He's a tremendously powerful lad, Rob McElnay.
So the first round in 1984 provided a fantastic battle between Wayne Gardner and Rob McElnay. And at the conclusion of the quarter round, those two were level on 27 points apiece at the head of the field. Glenn Middlemiss had accumulated 16 points, as had veteran Andrew Johnson. Michael Dowson was on 15, and defending champion Malcolm Campbell on 9 points. But the indication was there that McElnay and Gardner might be battling it out in 1984. Gardner aiming to become the first man ever to win the Swann Series on 2 occasions. Off now to the second round at Oran Park.
The field comes out at Oran Park in New South Wales for round 2, leg 1, over 12 laps of the 2.6 kilometre Grand Prix circuit. And on pole position is the man who equally leads the Swann Insurance Series on 27 points, Wayne Gardner on the Honda RS 500. Beside him on the front row is the Englishman Rob McElnay on the Suzuki 500. Then the find of the series, Glenn Middlemiss, the quiet Australian on the Suzuki 500. Beside him, the noisier Australian Andrew Johnson, the man who so desperately wants to win this Swann Insurance Series to cap his career. And then on the Yamaha TZ750, a bike which could be a real surprise here, is Michael Dowson. The field now in the starter's hand, in readiness, and they're racing a huge start from Rod Cox at the back of the field on bike 14 on the Superbike, and he takes over the lead.
And Wayne Gardner once again gets an absolutely disastrous start as AJ Johnson goes into the lead, with Middlemiss slipping into second.
Then it's Rod Cox on the Superbike in third position, and he slips down into second.
But Dowson already takes second on the TZ750 Yamaha, all sorted out at the first corner, with Johnson leading Dowson. And Phyllis, number 32, coming through the field to take up third from Cox.
John Payson P also in contention.
And McElnay in about 6th place, just behind Middlemiss. But where is Gardner? A terrible start. 7th place, Wayne Gardner already making his way up through the field, and he's a couple of places behind McElnay.
Keep in mind that last weekend Wayne Gardner dropped back further than 10th position and then came from further behind than Andrew Peacock to win the race.
And it's already Gardner on McElnay's tail as they chase Middlemiss. But Johnson leads. Dowson Phyllis.
First lap almost over, and Andrew Johnson is opening the lead that he's going to need to give himself a buffer on the hard-charging McElnay and Gardner later in the event.
And Phyllis up into second from Dowson.
1.07 seconds is the gap between Johnson and second position.
And McElnay sweeps past Cox to take fourth. And Gardner putting Cox under tremendous pressure. But there's Johnson, and it's a fantastic ride from Phyllis on the Action Suzuki. This Formula One bike, 1,000 cc's, tremendous drive from number 32, but Johnson leads, but Phyllis is closing on him.
Phyllis makes the point that it's not actually a pucker Formula One bike. In fact, it's almost an illegal superbike. That is, it's much heavier and less sophisticated than a true Formula One machine.
And Gardner still battling to try and get past Cox as we watch number 7, Johnson, and Phyllis pulling away from Dowson, and McElnay in a good fourth place. And Gardner still can't get past Cox and is only just holding out Middle Miss.
And in the commentary position with us at the moment is the man who should be defending his 1983 Swann Insurance victory, Malcolm Campbell. Malcolm, why are you here instead of out there?
It's a good question, that. I'd love to be out here. If I get a bit excited, you really realise I want to be there, but I'm not. So we'll have to watch it from here.
And Dowson got a big shake on the 750 Yamaha as he tried to pull the power on, and McElnay got past, but Gardner now has swept past Cox, and Middle Miss follows him through. So as McElnay dives for the inside to go past Middle Miss, to go past Dowson, Gardner and Middle Miss making their way up to challenge. Oh, and somebody's down.
Johnson's in the lead. He's been hard challenged by Rob Phillips, his old protagonist.
And I think it's the Kawasaki, it's the Morawaki Kawasaki
again. Bad luck for the Morawaki team.
But that's McElnay who crashed. It was McElnay who crashed at the end of the straight, so we've got 2 riders down. McElnay's okay, he's up on the banking. Lost it under brakes at the end of the straight.
Well, McElnay, a man who hates this circuit, did not like it last year, would not ride hard. This time he was really going for it and has paid the penalty. There's McElnay with his machine.
Just having a look to see if he could possibly ride it and get a couple of points, but surely there's no chance of that now.
There's the Morawaki bike, still down. We'll try and identify whether it's Yachu Shiro or Miyagi.
And Gardner up into third place now as Phyllis hounds Johnson for the lead.
Both the Morawakis have already crashed at Oran Park this weekend. Yatsushiro on Saturday, Miyagi on Friday, when he almost rode off, well, in fact, did ride off the machine entirely.
And Dowson, number 1, under pressure from Middle Miss.
And the news comes through that it's Kaoru Miyagi who's crashed the Morawaki.
And Middle Miss tries to go around the outside of Dowson. A very brave move, but very difficult to do so in that position, wouldn't you say,
Yeah,
Malcolm?
it certainly would be. It's a long way around the outside on that particular corner.
Gardner ranging up in third position now, and Johnson trying to hold off Phyllis will slow them down to the degree that Gardner should find catching them no difficulty in the 12 laps.
I think Robbie Phyllis would really have the bit between the teeth at the moment, trying to beat his arch rival Andrew on a bit more competitive bike. He'd be really going for it, I think. Wouldn't be too much worried about the win rather than sticking with Andrew.
Johnson last weekend concealed from team manager Clyde Wolfenden the fact that he had a broken left ankle, and by doing so got on the 500, went out and raced, therefore got points up on the board. So the Honda team is in a situation where it must leave Andrew on the bike even though his ankle is still broken. Had he revealed that ankle injury beforehand, Malcolm, would you have been on the RS 500?
Well, that's not really for me to speculate. I wouldn't like to comment on that. I may or may not have been.
You'd have liked to have been, though.
I would have liked to have been, yes.
But just watch the power of the Action Suzuki hanging on to this Grand Prix 500 Honda in front. That's Johnson on the Honda from the production-based 1000 Suzuki that Phyllis is riding. And Phyllis closing right up on the brakes.
The heavier bike, perhaps better suited to the bumpy Oran Park circuit, as now he comes out of the slipstream.
And did Johnson miss a gear there? It seems likely that he must have missed a gear because suddenly Phyllis got the jump on him.
I'd say so, yeah, coming up that short straight.
So Robbie Phyllis takes over the lead in the Swann Insurance Series, round 2, leg 1. There's the point score to date. Wayne Gardner and Rob McElnay leading the point score. Rob Phyllis had a rotten weekend at Calder. Tried 2 bikes, the Formula One, sort of Formula One bike and his super bike, and failed to finish in both legs on both bikes. So he has no points at all.
the big Suzuki obviously being pressed very hard by Phyllis. He's be using all the revs and a little bit more. May have overstressed the engine. Smoking again.
Gardner now on the straight, let's see it. Side by side, a 1:17.13, and there goes Gardner. And Wayne Gardner takes over the lead in the Swann Insurance Series. Tied for equal points on 27 points with Rob McElnay. If he wins this race, it'll give him a clear lead in the Swann Insurance Series.
And Phyllis is no fool. Surely he will be more interested in trying to keep Johnson away now rather than repass Gardner, would you say, Malcolm?
It'd be hard to say. Robbie's a fairly cagey rider. I think if he can hang on to the tail of Gardner to the end of the race, we might see him putting a wheel in somewhere and trying to get past on the last lap.
And the 500 Honda bucking wildly there, and it looked as though Phyllis's heavier superbike made an easier job of running across the bumps than the lightweight Grand Prix machine that Gardner's riding.
7 laps down, 5 remaining.
So it's the 3-cylinder water-cooled two-stroke of Wayne Gardner, the Honda, leading 1000cc air-cooled Suzuki of Phyllis. Gardner leads, and that bike that Phyllis is riding actually uses the magneto ignition system off a old Mercury outboard engine, so that the ignition system can be moved behind the cylinders and bring down the width of the engine to allow Phyllis to lean the bike over without the crankcases scraping on the ground. And that's Johnson, number 7, in 3rd place.
And from Johnson back to Middlemas, there's 5.31 seconds. You can see it there. In fact, Middlemas starting to close that gap. That's not a 5-second gap.
And Middlemas put in a very quick 15.5 second, 1 minute 15.5 second practice lap, and he was the sensation of practice, really. And as Johnson tires, it looks as though Middlemas will be able to reel him in.
The problem with Johnson's foot is that he can't rest it on the foot peg to any great degree, so he's really riding out of balance on the bike. And it's most tiring, especially on a circuit like this, where the bumps really do knock you about.
And you could see Middlemas's machine being shaken violently as he ran it across the ripples there. And Gardner leads, but not really pulling away from Phyllis.
.1 seconds is the gap from Johnson back to Middlemas. And the question really, I guess, is Gardner comfortable where he is, or is he really under pressure from Robbie Phyllis?
Phyllis is really hanging in there, isn't he? The puffs of smoke seem to have disappeared again. So it must be still running okay. He doesn't seem to have dropped any speed at all.
Still sorting out the motorcycle, as you said earlier, Peter, to the degree that Rob found yesterday on the bumps of Oran Park, that under brakes, the front tyre was rubbing on the exhaust pipes, so they've modified the exhaust pipes overnight to keep them away from the front wheel.
And it's thanks to Action Suzuki that we've actually seen Phyllis in this race at all, because before the series started he didn't have a bike to ride, and Rod Hunwick of Action Suzuki put the money up front for Chris Dow to build this bike. As we see Middlemas closing on the men in front. Phyllis down the start and finish straight ahead of Johnson.
Johnson lapping at 1 minute 17.03 seconds. So the pace is right on.
Gardner, very, very stylish.
Wayne Gardner starting to have a little bit of a play there with the front wheel, I think. He's probably doing it fairly easy, I'd say.
And definitely a man to watch out for in the Grand Prix next season.
Gardner's team has not been wasting its time. Between the Swann Insurance Series, they spoke to 5 potential sponsors for Wayne Gardner's international career last week, 2 of them liquor companies, and according to Barry Simmons, the team manager, at least a couple of those 5 are looking very strong indeed to give Australian sponsorship to a great young Australian sportsman in international competition. And wouldn't it be nice to see Wayne Gardner carrying some Australian company's banner overseas? 2.7 seconds now separates Andrew Johnson from Glenn Middlemas, so Middlemas closing the gap. Although whether it's because Middlemas is going harder or Johnson's going slower is really a point to be asked.
And I saw Gardner finish a superb third in this year's Swedish Grand Prix at Anderstorp behind the world champion Eddie Lawson and Raymond Roche, and that proved just what he could do in the Grand Prix. I'm sure we'll see a great deal more of him next year.
Less than 2.6 kilometres remaining around the Oran Park circuit for Wayne Gardner, going for his second win in the Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series for 1984, and huge questions to be answered between now and the second leg this afternoon. Mainly, can Rob McElnay get the Suzuki repaired in time to be a challenge to Gardner, and indeed to Andrew Johnson, in the second heat later today? Because with only the third round remaining at Surfers Paradise next weekend, McElnay can't afford to give away too many more points today. Half the circuit remaining for Wayne Gardner. And a superb effort from Rob Phillips behind him. Large crowd at Oran Park. Very much Gardner fans, because most of them have come from Wollongong to see their hometown hero, and Wayne Gardner takes the win in Heat 2, Leg 1 of the Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series from Rob Phillips, with Andrew Johnson picking up 10 points again in third position. Fourth in the race is Glenn Middlemas, fifth John Pace, sixth Michael Dowson, seventh Rod Cox. 3 races down and 3 remaining in the 1984 Swann Series, and the leader at this stage is Wayne Gardner, comfortably on 42 points. But look at second place, being fought out by Rob McElnay on 27 and with a bike damaged, Andrew Johnson on 26 with an ankle damaged, and Glenn Middlemas sitting pretty on 24 points. Then comes Michael Dowson on the TZ 750 Yamaha on 20 points, from John Pace 13, Rob Phillips on 12, his first points in the series, Malcolm Campbell now out of the series on 9 points, Shunzi Yatsushiro with his co-rider Miyagi hurt and in the ambulance on 7 points, Kevin McGee on the big Ducati 4, and Paul Idden on 4 points. The strong field forms up for the second leg of the Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series over 12 laps, and as they form, news comes that Hikaru Miyagi, injured in the first heat today, has a dislocated shoulder and broken collarbone as well. Peter Clifford, the editor of the very respected international publication Motorcourse, has been in the pits. Peter, what other news do you have?
Well, Rob Phillips, we see number 32 come into the line on the Action Suzuki. He had overheating problems in the first leg, and that's what caused the smoke. They have ripped off the side of the fairing, stuck the number plates on the back of the seat, and hoping that that will enable the engine to keep a little cooler. The winner of the first leg, Wayne Gardner, he decided to change tyres and has now gone to a softer compound tyre because the hard tyre never really heated up.
Ready to go. Big start from Andrew Johnson, and again Rod Cox blasts down the inside on the Superbike 14.
And again Wayne Gardner's left.
And it's Rod Cox in the lead. Beside him is Michael Dowson. Dowson takes it over.
Johnson into third with Middlemas in fourth, but Phillips up the inside once more to take fourth from Middlemas. And there goes Gardner, already up to fifth.
Super start from Michael Dowson. Unbelievable from Rod Cox, who took off from the second position, or second row of the grid. Rob Phillips in fourth position behind Andrew Johnson.
And Rob McElnay back in about seventh behind John Pace. McElnay had to put in a new wheel after his first leg crash. It broke the front wheel, it was dented. As Dowson leads Cox, Johnson and Phillips under pressurising the leaders now.
And still it's Dowson, with Cox now slowing down the field behind him. Not much, mind you, but he is slowing them down.
Phillips looking for a way round Johnson. Dowson leads. Cox, Johnson takes second, and Phillips looks to be following him through.
Dowson has 1.3 seconds up on them. Here comes Phyllis through.
Phyllis takes third.
Worry for Phyllis at the start. He was motioning Chris Dowd, the engine builder, to come across to the bike as it formed up on the grid, but Dowd wasn't allowed out by officials. Now Phyllis all over Andrew Johnson's bike. Johnson changing gear ratios between sessions.
Gardner up into 5th place.
McElnay back in 8th position.
Dowson not getting away from Johnson and Phyllis, with Gardner now hard on Cox's tail. Gardner, the ultra lightweight 500cc Grand Prix Honda, chasing the big V4 water-cooled 1000 of Cox. Dowson leading on the 750 Yamaha.
Gardner, the supreme professional of the Swann Insurance Series in 1984. Ice cool to be able to endure the slow starts he makes.
And ridden out right to the wall by Cox. Only just room for Gardner just to get back on the circuit and save hitting the cones that mark the beginning of the pit lane. And Middlemas goes past Cox.
Lap time of 1 minute 17.36 seconds on Michael Dowson. Fastest lap in the first race this morning was 1 minute 15.9, shared equally by Wayne Gardner and Rob Phyllis.
Gardner in 4th, with his sights set on Phyllis, who in turn desperately wants to get past Johnson and on terms with Dowson.
Malcolm Campbell, this Johnson-Phyllis thing is really working itself up into a monster duel. Dowson succumbs to the challenge, and Andrew Johnson takes over the lead on lap 3.
Yes, the big 750 Yamaha gave a big kick there as Dowson tried to get the power on.
It'll be very interesting to see how the Yamaha goes down the straight for speed here, sliding about.
Now look at the sliding about of Rob Phyllis as he gets the power down on the Suzuki.
And Johnson changed the internal gear ratios on the 500 Honda between legs there because he felt he couldn't get out of the turns properly. And it looked the way he got past the 750 Yamaha as though that may well have paid dividends.
Well, this is really make or break for Andrew Johnson. He's on 26 points in the series. Wayne Gardner is on 42. Rob McElnay is 27. Johnson has to perform here today in this race to stay in touch in the series. Here are the point scores after 3 rounds with 3 to go. We're at half distance. Wayne Gardner on 42. Look at the race for second place. McElnay 27, Johnson 26, Middlemas 24. That's why Johnson has to make the break. And there goes Rob Phyllis. He's through Michael Dowson. And Gardner right now on Dowson's back wheel. Superb riding from Rob Phyllis. Here comes Gardner now up onto Dowson. Dowson has got to give it away. He doesn't. Slams back over the dog leg.
Dowson, another person to make changes between the 2 races. He had the wrong throttle grip on for the first leg, found he was having to take 2 goes at the throttle, and now has a quick action throttle, which seems perhaps to be causing him a little bit of problems. He can't get out of some of the corners.
Only 1.48 seconds separates Andrew Johnson from Wayne Gardner in 4th position.
I think maybe Dowson's experiencing some tyre problems there, same as Wayne Gardner then. Very hot out there on the track. I think tyre choices would be fairly critical to a good result.
Ambient temperatures here up around the 30 degrees Celsius today, so the track temperature is much more than that.
But Gardner's team, they took the measure of actually putting nitrogen in the rear tyre of Gardner's machine, and he's trying to go inside Dowson.
Can't do it across the bridge, and by backing off, Glenn Middlemas gets right up onto Gardner's tail. There's Middlemas on the red bike, right behind Gardner. Superb motorcycle racing. Five laps gone, coming up to half distance. Gardner again ranges up on Dowson, can't do it over the dog leg, now under brakes. There he goes.
Gardner takes third with Dowson fourth, Middlemiss fifth, and Rob McElnay in sixth place.
Andrew Johnson, a 1 minute 16.4 second lap. Gardner looks behind him, make sure that Dowson is back there far enough not to be a challenge in this fast left-hand sweeper. And in fact, Dowson is challenging. Great riding from Dowson on a bike which is old, and although the engine's new, you've got to say the chassis is a bit tired. And there's the leader, Andrew Johnson. Behind him, Rob Phillis, the arch rivals of Australian motorcycle racing, locked nose to tail. One on a two-stroke, one on a four. Johnson's bike half the capacity of Phillis's.
And Phillis has slowed. He lost ground then. Did he have a big slide coming out the corner, or perhaps there's something wrong with the Action Suzuki? No, it seems to be running okay. He must have just had a momentary problem. And Middlemiss has passed Dowson now.
Johnson out to a 1.33 second lead on Rob Phillis as he comes under great challenge from Wayne Gardner. Middlemiss right behind. Gardner now down under Phillis, and no way in the wide world, and Middlemiss follows him through too.
And there's definitely something wrong with Phillis's machine. He's slowed right out now. Almost certainly he'll pull into the pits. The hand goes up and Phillis tours into the pits. A sad end to an absolutely superb ride from Phillis.
John Pace goes through. Lap 6, half distance. When Rob Phillis pulls out, now Wayne Gardner with Middlemiss behind him.
Middlemiss has come right up there, past Dowson.
Middlemiss is proving to be a superb find in this series, as Andrew Johnson looks behind him to see where the field is, and he can ill afford to spend time looking behind him.
I think Glenn's decided really to have a go in this leg. He's pressuring Gardner here.
Well, Middlemiss told us yesterday that he didn't believe he could win the series, but he could certainly prove to everyone in Australia that he is a damn good rider, and he's proving that right now. Won the Australian 500cc Championship this year, basically racing against 250s and 350s and even production bikes. But now, in bikes of his own, against bikes of his own capacity, he has proven. Oh, and Gardner almost gone. Gardner almost spat off the model.
In going to a softer tyre, it seems that Gardner has made a mistake. Even filling the tyre with nitrogen, which is supposed to be inert and not heat up the same way as air does, it doesn't seem to have worked, and the tyre is surely going away. That's going to cause him a real problem now.
Down comes Dowson. Can he pull out of the slipstream and get him? Yes, he does. Gardner drops back to 4th position. And Gardner now must surely go for points in this race rather than trying to race for the win. There are 4 laps remaining. There's Andrew Johnson. Middlemiss in 2nd position. Michael Dowson in 3rd. Wayne Gardner 4th. And there's McElnay now, up onto Gardner's heels. And while the tyres going off might be a drama for Wayne Gardner and a disappointment for him, it's going to make the last round at Surfers Paradise next weekend really something to behold. Oh, and Gardner almost gone again as he comes up to challenge Dowson. Because Gardner, if he drops back on points here, will be well in points, will put the other riders well in points contact with him. McElnay now challenges through the old S, is the bumpiest part of the circuit. Dowson, Gardner, McElnay. McElnay lining himself up with the slingshot down under brakes, but he's too far away.
Gardner ducks into the slipstream of Dowson's 750 Yamaha for the tow down the straight. Pulls out beside him.
Johnson 2.05 seconds in front of Middlemiss. These riders 1.62 seconds behind Middlemiss.
Dowson very brave on the brakes and kept Gardner away. Middlemiss closing on Johnson now.
McElnay down the inside and pulls back behind Gardner. Oh, brave man would have just about gone for it there, Malcolm.
Not into that particular corner. It's a good corner for a brave man to come unstuck on. It tends to go off camber as you turn in, and it's a real front wheel trap, that particular corner.
McElnay, having already been down the road once today, is not about to take a second chance.
Yes, his first crash was a front end lose, so he'd be a little reserved on pushing in front wheel, I'd think.
Middlemiss pulling away from Dowson now.
Middlemiss closing on Johnson, only 1.14 seconds behind. Then a 2.71 seconds gap back to this dice.
McElnay just sucked into the slipstream and inside.
Will Gardner fight back in the next section? No, he doesn't.
Brave of McElnay to pass in almost exactly the same place that he fell off in the first leg, as Middlemiss closes on Johnson for the lead, and McElnay is now right on Dowson's tail.
There's the race leader, Andrew Johnson. 2 fourths and a third so far in the Swann Insurance Series, and there's the gap back to Michael Dowson in third position. McElnay tries it on the inside over the bridge as well, and no one does that.
Great riding from Middlemiss in second place.
Dowson's the man most likely to come into his own when they get to Surfers Paradise next weekend. The big, wide, sweeping Surfers Paradise track will likely suit the Yamaha TZ750.
Now McElnay, he managed to pass Gardner at the end of the straight on the last lap.
Johnson pulls a 1:16.81, and there's the race for the lead with Glenn Middlemiss now right on Andrew Johnson's tail. And on a hot circuit like today, a 16.8 is about as fast as they're going to go, so they're both trying flat chat. 2 laps remaining. Glenn Middlemiss going for his first major victory in Australian motorcycle racing, and almost throws the model away on exactly the corner that Malcolm Campbell just said was a brave one for a front-end throwaway.
Middlemiss with nowhere near the backing that Johnson has, of course. We know it hasn't got the money to buy the tyres and the parts that he would really like. If he has any advantage over Johnson, it's the fact that Middlemiss is using an 18-inch front wheel. It's now unfashionable to use an 18-inch front, the 16 being quicker to turn, but over the bumps it's probably that little bit more stable as he closes right up on Johnson. Thought about riding around him.
And what a charm series this Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series is. We've never seen a bad race in it in a couple of years of following it. Look at Middlemiss now right up on Johnson's tail. Homegrown Suzuki versus the Works Production Honda. On their last lap, 1 lap remaining. McElnay has disappeared from the tail of Gardner and seems to have dropped out of the motorcycle race.
Where can Middlemiss get past Johnson? Would you have any idea where he's going to try it now?
The only place really is if Andrew makes a little bit of a slip or coming down into the last corner before the main straight. Very hard to get past on this section of the track.
And he's gone!
Johnson goes down. The back end must have come round, lost the back end and kicked him over the handlebars.
It's a high side.
And that's Johnson's injured ankle. That's an old injury that's been aggravated. And there's the race leader, Glenn Middlemiss. Clear on the track. Let's see what happened. We follow Middlemiss, and right in front of him is Andrew Johnson. Mal Campbell, what do we see?
Yes, it's high-sided him over the top.
The big black mark on the road there, you can see it slid one way, kicked the other and just spat him over the top.
So lucky that the bike didn't pick him up. Round Castrol corner for the last time. Glenn Middlemiss pulls a small, discreet wheelie and heads for the checkered flag to win round 2, leg 4 of the Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series. In second position is Michael Dowson. In third position, Wayne Gardner. In fourth position, John Pace.
Brilliant ride from a virtually unsponsored underdog. I think it'll put a lot of energy into a lot of fans. They'll be right behind him with that ride, I'd say.
And in round 2, heat 2 of the Swann Insurance Motorcycle Series at Oran Park, going to Surfers next weekend, Glenn Middlemiss wins from Michael Dowson with Wayne Gardner in third position.
For the second year in a row, the Oran Park round had put a huge dent in the Swann Series hopes of Englishman Rob McElnay. He doesn't like the circuit, and he's ridden that way in his 2 years there. It had boosted the chances of Wayne Gardner, who was now in not an unassailable position, but a very strong one nonetheless. His points tally with a round to go was 52. Glenn Middlemiss had moved into second position on 39, Dowson was up to 32. McElnay had not added to the 27 points that he scored at Calder. Then back to Pace on 21, Phillips on 12 and Campbell on 9 points. Andrew Johnson, who came to grief in the second heat at Oran Park, had aggravated an already serious ankle injury and he was out of the 84 Swann Series, and it seemed that perhaps his career had come to an end. Off now for the third and final round in the 84 Series to the Surfers Paradise International Raceway.
15 laps, 48 kilometres. Dowson got moving well, so did McElnay and Pace. Pace blasts away. But it's Dowson, I think, who might hit the Dunlop Bridge first. McElnay sweeps it. No, McElnay's back about fourth. It's Middlemas
who leads
22.
now.
Great start along with Dowson, the two locals.
Middlemas is the man who needs to win today as Rob Phillips comes up to challenge him on the four-stroke Suzuki. Middlemas on 39 points. Gardner on 52. But it's Dowson, all Dowson, as he comes down the back of the circuit for the first of 15 laps. And this is the circuit where the TZ 750 was always going to shine as McElnay tries to round up Middlemas on the outside. John Pace on the inside of him. McElnay gets in, Pace goes through on the other side, and Middlemas drops back through the field.
It's Phillips that's rounded them all up, who's lying second on the superbike, number 32. McElnay after him.
Great riding from Robbie Phillips on the four-stroke Suzuki.
And Dowson taps now into 135 horsepower on the 7-year-old 750 Yamaha. And down the straight as McElnay comes on to Phillips but can't get past him. Pace sits fourth.
Sixth place is Gardner, 2.21 seconds behind the leader.
And that was a 20.64 second lap for the standing start, 143 kilometres an hour average.
McElnay up on Phillips.
Into the section that should suit the Suzuki. That's the Suzuki Grand Prix bike.
And Gardner looming large in fifth place now as McElnay passes Phillips on the brakes.
And the leader, Dowson. McElnay very keen to wrap up with a couple of wins. There's Gardner looming into the pack.
Now up into fifth position. It's Dowson, McElnay, Phillips, John Pace, then Gardner. And then a 1.88 second gap back to Glenn Middlemas, who in trailing Gardner is losing his chance of winning the Swann Insurance Series.
And just a second and a half covering the leading five. Malcolm Campbell's gone missing incidentally on number 3. Middlemas dropping out of that pack to 6th.
Gardner overhauls Pace. There's McElnay, Phillips, then it'll be Gardner. Now McElnay on Dowson. And Dowson covers his corner, hard on brakes. McElnay able to round him up on the outside, but the big power of the TZ750 should bring Dowson out quicker.
You saw a comparison there on the...
Oh, Dowson's gone.
Can he hang on to it?
He's still going terribly fast, and there's all sorts of ruts down. We'll see how easily he could have come off. He's held it, so at least he saved the model. But look where the track is, and look where Michael Dowson is. My goodness.
The question is whether to take a shortcut, which is rather tempting for him. But I was just going to say the comparison on the 16-inch front wheel on McElnay's bike and the 18 on Dowson's. Trouble.
Dowson rejoins the track, but he's now 17.42 seconds behind the dice for the lead. Gardner now challenges on Phillips. Gardner must make no mistakes. If he can hold that position, he can win the Swan. But Gardner is a man who would like very much to win the Swan from the front.
An engine that was gruntier out of the corners at the start of the series than the slightly heavier Suzuki, but not as good in top-end power. Now, with a later engine from Japan that boasts about 130 horsepower, Wayne Gardner.
Gardner passes Phillips into second position. He's now 0.99 of a second behind his adversary, Rob McElnay on the Suzuki. When Honda offered Gardner the works engine, Gardner felt compelled to take it, in fact grateful for it, but with the engine came a gearbox with which Gardner is not happy, but he can't do anything about it. The change points in the gearbox have been set up for Freddie Spencer, the works Honda rider. Gardner has to use that gearbox with change points which are foreign to him, and that perhaps is why he just seems a little bit at sea on some of the corners.
Plus, he's had terrible handling problems in practice. He broke the fairing. He got in such a big flap with the back end sliding in practice that he punched the fairing off its mount trying to wrestle with the machine. And we've already seen him get into trouble once while trying to chase McElnay. And it'll be interesting to see whether he can get the power on coming back onto the start and finish straight, where one of the major problems is the back end bucking and weaving as he tries to get the power down.
Well, the comment from both the Honda Australia team manager for Malcolm Campbell and also Barry Simmons for Wayne Gardner is that the more powerful engine just is making it more difficult for the frames on the base, so it's requiring more of suspension and frame than with the less powerful engine they were using last week.
1/3 distance gone, and Rob McElnay opens a small advantage on Wayne Gardner, 1.33 seconds. There's fifth position, Paul Idden, with Shunji Yatsushiro, the man that his team always said would perform at Surfers Paradise because he likes big, open, fast circuits like this. The 24-year-old Japanese in his first international race series outside Japan, challenging the British privateer, Paul Idden, who, to put it mildly, has had a disaster of a season in Australia. Not only with his machine, but also personally, finding himself arrested last weekend for speeding on the public highways and needing to face a court appearance on the 19th of this month. And there's the leader, Rob McElnay, coming down to the 2/3 mark, 10 laps completed for Rob McElnay. And it's very likely that this heat will decide the winner of the Swann Insurance Series for 1984, and that, if Wayne Gardner holds station in second position, will be Gardner. No one will be able to touch him. That means the final heat this afternoon will be a go-for-broke race, and you can expect to see Gardner right on McElnay the whole way. This is the dice for third position. Rob Phillips on a 1000cc, 4-cylinder, 4-stroke. Glenn Middlemas, 500cc Grand Prix, 2-stroke, 4 cylinders as well. And Middlemas very much the find of the series. We've all known what Rob Phillips can do, and he's proving it right now as Middlemas comes up alongside. And let's see the comparative power, 4-stroke to 2-stroke, as Middlemas comes out of the slipstream and overtakes third position.
And I think it's virtually certain that Phillis's bike is overheating and has got a lot slower, because right at the beginning of the race, McElnay was totally unable to pull out and fast on what should have been a much faster semi-works RG500 Suzuki. So Phillis's 1000 almost certainly overheated and lost power, enabling Middlemas just to use his own speed to overtake him.
Chris Dowd, the engine builder, in fact, did some considerable work during the week putting a new oil cooler, a larger oil capacity oil cooler, onto Phillis's bike, but perhaps to no avail.
By virtue of moving forward to third, Middlemas is threatening on 49 points. So that could bring him up equal with Gardner, but with fewer heat wins, as McElnay comes round now to complete 13 laps, 2 remaining, and Dowson has reduced the gap forward to Middlemas and Gardner, Middlemas and Phillips battling. to about under 5 seconds. So Dowson's just an outside chance in 2 laps to rein them in.
9.39 seconds separates Rob McElnay here from Wayne Gardner in 2nd position.
And it's almost certain that Gardner is saving the revs on his RG, on his NS500 Honda, not using all the power, so that he's making sure that the engine will finish the race, being easy on the crankshaft, just coasting along to finish the race that he needs to be certain of winning the championship.
Dowson is 4.23 seconds behind Middlemas, but very much closer to Phillips and quite a threat, in fact, for 4th place. A lap and a half to go from this man, McElnay.
The bike McElnay just left, incidentally, is that of Graham Muir, the man who won in the wet in the final round of the Swann Insurance Series here last year, but who now frankly admits that his 10-year-old machine, 12-year-old machine, is well and truly past it, and it'll probably be its last ride. McElnay in the lead, Wayne Gardner in 2nd, some 9.5 seconds behind. Last lap board about to come out to Rob McElnay. Takes it now, 3.2 kilometres remaining. And more than the length of the main Surfers Paradise dragway straight. And 11.14 seconds, in fact, between Rob McElnay and Wayne Gardner. Middlemas is 8.94 seconds behind. Then Phillips, then Dowson right behind him. There they are. They'll sweep through our picture now. There they go. Rob Phillips, Dowson round the outside of him on the fastest corner of Australian motorcycle racing. The bike moving all over the track. Dowson holds it and takes over that position from Rob Phillips.
That's 4th. And can he, in the next half lap or so, get up to Middlemas? If so, it will have been a tale of adventure for both Dowson and Middlemas, who got the best starts in the field.
There's Dowson.
And you saw Middlemas just flash out of screen. He really is trying. He had that Yamaha squirming, and as he was squeezing it hard through the corners, gee, too big a gap, I think.
1.72 seconds, the gap.
As we come back to McElnay, onto the home straight, heading for the checkered flag. A great ride, very heavily put together by McElnay.
And Rob McElnay wins the 5th race in the Swann Insurance Series from 1984. He won the 1st at Calder, and now the 5th. Wayne Gardner goes through in 2nd position, probably to take the series win with 1 heat remaining this afternoon. An intriguing point score as we head for the final heat of the 1984 Swann Insurance Series. If Wayne Gardner fails to finish in the final round and Glenn Middlemas wins it, Middlemas will win the series. He would score 15 points, become equal with Gardner on 64, but would win the series by having won the last round, which is what the rules say. Rob McElnay, on the other hand, now cannot win the Swann Insurance Series, but he can certainly figure in the result between Gardner and Middlemas. Should a dice develop between Gardner and McElnay and something happen to Gardner, it will be Middlemas' series if he wins. Now the problem, the bikes are on the grid. How long must they sit there before we're ready for the off? Remembering that heat is a real factor. Okay, we've got a start coming up now.
9 starters, 15. And Middlemas gets left, so does Yatsushiro.
Horrible start from Yatsushiro. He just blew it entirely.
And it looks like Muir in front, the winner of last year's, getting a terrible slide on as Dowson comes past on the number 1 Yamaha.
John Pace down the inside, Graham Muir on the outside, and the oldest bike in the field in 3rd position. He won't hold there long.
Graham Muir being very brave at the moment.
Rob Phillips comes through him.
Gardner.
There, and up comes Gardner.
Gardner 4, Muir 5. Dowson leading. John Pace.
And McElnay there in 6th place, just rounding up Muir and heading out after Gardner.
Here comes Gardner down the inside on Robbie Phillips. Phillips out-braking him on the 4-stroke Honda.
And McElnay wide, trying to round up Gardner, and does it.
And he's got him. Pace now all over Dowson. Pace stopped in the first heat, you remember.
Truly phenomenal move by McElnay to ride around the outside of Gardner in that position.
Onto the straight comes Dowson, haunted by Pace, but the big Yamaha really having its legs.
Gardner now through McElnay.
Gardner 1.71 seconds behind the leader Dowson.
And Gardner just came out of McElnay's slipstream and blitzed him down the straight. McElnay fights back. Phillips, I think, may just have met his match. Although he's not conceding anything right now. Now McElnay comes up on Gardner on the fast left-hand sweeper at the back. Faster into the corner. Nothing between it out of.
This is Racer Gardner, Tiger Gardner, who is having a personal battle. And at the moment, points and series mean very little. He wants to beat Rob McElnay, his arch rival in Formula One racing in England a couple of years ago. And really, from a prestige, personal point of view, wants to come out on top of this battle as Michael Dowson romps away just a little bit from them. 2.17 seconds.
And John Pace's private Suzuki being overhauled rapidly by the superior speed of Gardner and McElnay's works machines.
Middlemiss is in 6th position. Remember, Middlemiss is the only man who can take the series away from Wayne Gardner.
And John Pace just totally outclassed machinery-wise there as Gardner has got through and McElnay looks to pick him off as well.
Frankly, to me, McElnay looking pretty good. He makes up just a few fractions of tenths of a second onto Gardner, seemingly pretty easily when he wants to, and can run wide and stay with him.
And also, of course, it has the advantage of McElnay being able to see where Gardner's quicker, where he's slower. So if it comes to a last lap, last-ditch effort, McElnay will have the advantage of knowing everything about his adversary.
1/3 distance gone, 10 laps remaining. There's 32 kilometres to go.
Set it up and then crank it over and onto the straight, where the speed onto the straight is critical.
This time they're closer to Dowson. 2.14 seconds. So they pulled him in by about 1/10 of a second.
Dowson chops 2/10 of his own time. So that...
Has something happened to Gardner? Yes, he has.
Or was he just waving McElnay past? Was he fed up with being hounded by McElnay, knowing that McElnay was looking to see which was his quickest line? Or does he feel unable to catch Dowson and wants to let McElnay do it?
Well, Gardner's certainly back into it, so the problem was momentary.
I think he was probably fed up with McElnay just watching his every move. Dowson recorded the quickest quickest lap times in the opening few laps with a 1:14.8.
Well, that's far and away the fastest a TZ750's ever been around this circuit.
McElnay 2.21 seconds behind Michael Dowson, and Dowson holding these two internationals.
And a 14.89 I've got for Dowson, 153.7, so he is still flying.
Middlemiss moves back in front of Iden. And Robbie Phillips has put the Suzuki GSX 1000 away.
And Gardner's retaken McElnay. So is this McElnay again playing games?
Both are playing games, but we're not sure what the game is. Whether it's, as you say, Gardner not wanting to be followed and to have his secrets revealed to McElnay, whether it's an attempt to try and send one out after Dowson, we're not sure, but...
I would say that they both must have quite a bit in reserve if they are playing games, because they've still got sort of 20 or 30 lengths to make up on Dowson. And Gardner had a big slide there. That's the worst position in the track that his Honda handles. There's a bump there, and when he hits it with the power on, the Honda gives a really big kick, so not that much in hand for either of them by the looks of it.
McElnay takes over the lead again. 3.79 seconds is the gap now between these people and the leader, Michael Dowson, so they're slipping back. Down the main straight, it's Michael Dowson in the lead, 1 lap remaining. 3.2 kilometres of the Surfers Paradise International Raceway for Michael Dowson. Behind him, Wayne Gardner pulls out of the slipstream down the main straight and overtakes Rob McElnay once again.
But Dowson leads by 13 seconds. That's nearly a second a lap and a quite remarkable performance. And I would think, Peter Clifford, that Rob McElnay would go back to England rather amazed at one Michael Dowson and an old Yamaha.
And McElnay tries to go around the outside, succeeds in going around the outside of Gardner, but it's almost as if these two have forgotten that the 750 Pittsman's Yamaha is way ahead of them and they're racing for the lead. Gardner back in front again. Very exciting stuff, but Dowson's the man at the moment, just cleared off and left them.
McElnay nosing down the inside, won't do it there. Gardner, a wheelie. Half a lap to go.
Got McElnay where he wants him, running around the outside. But now McElnay well served as he comes underneath.
And there's still time for Gardner to do it again as we see Dowson screaming across the start and finish line to win.
Michael Dowson takes the 6th race in the Swann Insurance Series for 1984. Coming onto the straight for the last time is Rob McElnay ahead of Wayne Gardner in the slipstream. He comes out side by side down the straight. It's McElnay by half a bike length from Wayne Gardner, who takes 3rd position to win the Swann Insurance Series for 1984.
So Wayne Gardner becomes the first man to win the Swann Series on 2 occasions. He won it in 1981, and now he's won it again in 1984. That's in the 7-year history of the event, and a happy man, no doubt.